Welcome back to the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast. Today I'm speaking with Sunny, who talks to me about doing everything the way she felt she was supposed to. She took on the identity of being a mum, but once her kids left home, she was left with empty nest syndrome and just feeling really lost in life. She talks about the transition of finding her truth and figuring life out in her 50s. Sunny wants to help women see past their restrictive societal roles and works with women to find their own truth. This is a great listen for anyone who has or is feeling a little bit lost in life, or even just an inspiring listen to see what she's overcome and what she's managed to achieve now. I'd love if you could hit the like button and the subscribe button if you haven't already, and enjoy this week's episode. Hi, Sunny. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on the podcast, the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast. It's lovely to have you. We've been chatting for a while, and I'm really interested to hear your journey in more depth because I know we spoke about it briefly, but you are now an authenticity coach because you've been on that journey yourself from feeling really lost. You talk about figuring it out in your 50s. Obviously, children leaving home and then, being left with all this time to really go on that journey, that personal journey yourself. So do you want to kind of talk us through, you said you did everything, you played by the rules, you did everything the way you felt you were supposed to. So do you want me to take me back to that time when you were doing everything you were supposed to, work life, family life?
Oh, absolutely. I think as women, we're taught, right, early on to be good girls. And I kind of had that programming down to a T. So I did everything basically the way I was supposed to. And, going to school, learning to cook, taking care of everyone, just all the house duties and not talking too much, not questioning, what my parents would say, just following along, trying to just get along. So
Mm-hmm.
even like school wise, I was my dad obviously wanted me to be a doctor like everybody else, and so I went to university, got a science degree, but unfortunately my marks weren't great, so couldn't really pursue that. But of course, I felt that was a big failure, and so after that, I did my business degree and became an accountant because, again, very reliable, good job. It's something that they can be proud of.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it was just, I didn't even want to do that, but it was something that I, um, I really didn't think it was just something that was valuable by them, right? So I had to kind of do whatever they would be happy with. It wasn't even about me at all, which that's fine. I kind of did that and I worked for a few years. Didn't love it. It's just something, again, it was prestigious. And then I had children. And so once I had kids, it was kind of I was torn between, being able to be the mom that they needed. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have anybody at home when I was little. And so I really missed out on just having a mom.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I was going to stay at home and raise the kids. So I gave up the career, and because it was kind of a choice between my husband working and me staying at home. And if I went back to work, he'd have to compromise. So gave that up and raised the kids, which I love doing. Okay, I was meant to be a mom, and they were amazing, but I gave way too much trying to be this perfect mom. Like make up for all the stuff that I didn't get. So that was a huge burden when I really think about it, um, and and I think it also came up with my eldest a lot too, because when she was in her teenagehood, oh, she was challenging to say the least, because no matter what I agreed with, it was always one more thing, right? So then she was pushing every boundary I had, and I wouldn't have very many. So rarely said no to her. And so that just created a lot of conflict because I was giving beyond my capabilities. And she still wasn't happy. And like, I didn't realize that now, how I actually was looking for her to validate me as a mom, which now I'm like, oh my gosh, like, that is such a damaging thing to do to your child, right? Because you don't, but I wasn't doing it consciously. But of course, I wanted her to say, oh my God, you're the best mom ever, which okay, I'm her mom, right? So she's never really gonna. She says that now, but back then it was a whole different story.
Mhm.
So bottom line, so yeah, so I just, I played the role. I did everything that I could, and I lived for the kids. I self-sacrificed. I made everybody happy. I, did the big birthday parties, like everything you can, like from the outside, where people would think it's perfect. We lived in a big house, had all this stuff. My husband had a great job, and it was when my eldest decided, and because it was already kind of a conflict, so her biggest thing was she wanted to go to university and get away, far away from me as possible. And honestly, that hurt to a little extent that she felt that way about me, but also the fact that I also wanted them to go out and live their dreams. So it was like I wanted them to do big things because I brought them up that way. So I think
Mhm.
when she left, that was a big wake up call to figure out what was next for me.
Mhm.
Because that, like, I had thrown myself into that role so much, right? So I didn't know who else I was. And
Yeah.
so when I kind of got over the her leaving, I started going inwards. And that's when I kind of realized that I had no idea who I was, what made me happy,
Mhm.
what I was supposed to do. Um, so that, yeah, like I hadn't, like, honestly, that was probably the darkest period of my life because what now,
Yeah.
right?
we were we were saying before when we spoke before about how we tick these societal boxes and live up to society's expectations, and then in the process we lose ourselves. So like you say, you then had to go inwards, and that's you spoke about your transition and finding your truth. So how was that, and how long was that? How long did that take? Although it's never ending, as
Yeah, it was never ending, but
always ongoing.
honestly, to a point where I was actually felt like like a human. It's almost like I want to say it was kind of like I went from I was a robot and then I was lost completely. I would say 2 years. It's probably
Mhm.
2 years of oh, honestly, that I look back at that time and it was probably the darkest period of my life.
Mhm.
Where I didn't know anything. Like honestly, I got up in the mornings and I didn't know. I didn't. It was just darkness. That's all I can I remember is feeling no hope. Um, and it's so. And I know a lot of people will look at such a person and think, "Oh, but you look like you have all these things." Because I'm like, yeah, we can. We all play a role. We all, you
Yep.
know, yeah. From the outside, nobody knows what's going on, right? So I think yeah, 2 years of like reading every book, listening to podcasts. I had a life coach. Just I think there was truths that I couldn't say to myself that
Mhm.
were probably the hardest things that I wouldn't even admit to myself because it was too painful.
Yeah.
And it's when I started just letting myself feel what I needed to feel that changed for me.
Mhm. And how was that process then? Because I know, having gone through that myself as well, how painful and every undesired emotion you can think of comes up. I guess because it's been suppressed, we've been putting on this front for all this time that, all these emotions, anger, sadness, fear, all starts to come up. So how did you cope with that?
One day at a time, like honest.
Mm.
Um, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really is just letting yourself feel it. Just as painful as it is, I definitely had, it was anger. Anger was something I wouldn't allow myself to feel. And I still have a hard time with it because then so much comes up of what should have happened and didn't happen. And then you knew better on certain things and you should have known better.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like there's just so many emotions. And I think like learning to forgive yourself and
Yeah.
look back at that and say, I didn't know, I did the best I could. And I'm not responsible for everybody else's feelings. That was so hard because I'm going through my own thing, and I'm also now, oh, I'm being sad, my family's looking at me being sad, oh, I'm affecting them, oh, this person, I'm not living up, like, so there was a lot of that for me, and it's my own doing. But I think just, giving yourself a break, like,
Yeah.
I
So
think
did you?
go ahead.
No, no, it's okay.
No, I just
You
think
go.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I specifically do feel with the with being women, it's like ever since I can remember, I've been, trying to make everyone feel better, and that's where a lot of times that's what we're told our values in. So breaking away from that
Mm-hmm.
was probably the hardest thing, right? Where you just go, no, I'm a person. I'm allowed to feel this way. I'm allowed to want more. I'm allowed to look for my happiness.
And did you have any resentment for the life that you felt you could have lived that would have been true to yourself back then? Was there any feelings around that?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Um, I think for me, it was worrying about people that didn't really care about me. I think that was probably the hardest part. I don't like loving people that loved you back, no problem, right? Like you want to make them feel loved. I think for me the hardest part was just accepting that I lived a life trying to please people that were never going to be pleased with me.
Yeah.
And the time wasted. Like I'm not a big believer in cutting people off because I will do a lot to hold on, but sometimes you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I can say is I've never regretted anybody that I've cut off. I've never regretted it. Only thing I've regretted is not cutting them off sooner. Um,
Yeah.
right? And I there's no shame in that. I and I think that's
Yep.
just something we're not. Everybody's like family and just keep doing. It's like no, no, no. I'm sorry. There comes a point where you matter, and if people can't care about you the way, move on.
Mm-hmm. And at what point did you feel you were starting to come out the other side then? You said it took 2 years. So would you say that was the point where you started to feel a bit better in yourself and that you were starting to find your truth?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. No, 2 years. I would say it was like at a point where I was like, okay, no, I'm hopeful.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because now I'm like, oh, like, and I'm honestly, I needed to go through that too, because I think it's the belief that when you finally get out, now you think, well, I can do anything because I've done this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it needed to happen, and yes, but I would say about 2 years, and then, I mean, don't get me wrong, we all have our good days and our bad days, so it's not like but most of the time, like I feel just more positive. I'm a better person for it too. I just have more to add because I'm not like I feel better about myself, and I just think the more fuller I am, I actually have so my all my relationships are better now because I actually have the patience, I have the love that and it was so important to go through that, and I'm just so yeah super glad that I did. And now I'm just at a just feel like I've gotten out of that, and I'm ready to roll and make a difference.
Yeah. And I think we need those that we need to hit that. I think we've all got that low point that we've hit. I know I remember mine very well as well. And I think we need to feel the darkness and all that the awful emotions as well. Because it makes you appreciate how life is how good life is about to get, but also they're in there for a reason. It's if we're not feeling them, they'll manifest out in other ways that probably aren't very productive. And I
Absolutely.
think as awful as it is at the time and as it can feel like it's going on and on, but I feel like that's such a beautiful, powerful time as well. If you're not aware of that, then that can be that it doesn't feel so good. But if when you're in the moment and you're feeling it, you know that there's so much growth on the other side of that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I've tried that. I've bypassed it, all
Mm.
that pain, and just I just be positive. I mean, I lived my whole life like that. I wasn't a complainer. I wasn't, but I just feel like if you can't bypass it because now I think it sits in your body. To be honest, it sits in your
It
body.
does, yeah,
As you
yeah.
said, it comes out in the littlest thing will trigger you. And then,
Mhm.
being the person that is aware, oh my gosh, now I got triggered. I yelled when I shouldn't have. And now I'm a horrible person. Oh my gosh, now this person feels bad. What am I going to do? I'm going to try to make them feel better. And I'm in this cycle of now it's just like, even if I have a bad day or I snapped at somebody,
Mhm.
I sit with the discomfort. I don't need to go and, I can apologize for it later. It doesn't have to be, oh my God, because I was, I can definitely say with my kids, I was trying to make up for so much, all that trauma that I had so they wouldn't have it. That,
Yeah.
oh, I don't want my kid to have to go through it. I don't want my kid to not feel loved. I don't want, so it was just, that was so much pressure when I think about it. And I think the moment I kind of went, they're probably going to have some stuff and that's okay.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when they have it, you'll help them then. But yeah, no, I agree. I've had to go through a lot of stuff and know my shortcomings and know I'm human, and it's made me a better person for it. Because now if somebody says, hey, you did this to me, I'm not offended. I'm not like, oh my God, well, I did all this for you and now you have to bring up this one thing. Right now it's
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, I understand. Like, you can take it for what it is without feeling you're just this guilt and shame for everything. Because for me, that was a big emotion. It was just, I felt bad about everything. So
Yeah.
I'm glad I allowed myself to feel it to be able to come to the other side.
Mhm. And you said you were in your late 40s then by the time you came through the other side, and you do talk a lot about embracing your age. So, what do you want to talk a bit about that and how you ended up doing the work that you're doing now because of your own journey? And like I said, you talk a lot about you work with you talk a lot about embracing life in your 50s, and yeah, tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I was actually 48 when I kind of started on my journey. And I
Right.
know for a lot of people, and it was a thing in my mind too, that, oh my God, so that's so old to kind of, turn your life upside down, figure yourself out, that I should know this. It's embarrassing, to be honest. It's part of you is kind of like, well, I should have my stuff figured out by now. So coming to terms that I don't, and that's okay, and it's never too late. Um, so yes, I do talk about that, but the age, because I think we're living healthier, longer lives. So to say it's too late for you at 50, it seems so ridiculous now to me, right? I mean, I've got a good another 40, 50 years left. Touch wood, but right? So it's like we can't think it's over because it's not over. It's not over.
Mhm.
And you have the best, especially when I think once I've raised the kids, I've done that part. Now it can be about me. This is the best time ever, right? So
Yeah.
I'm a big believer in that, because I see just too many people thinking age is a, oh, this is a barrier to do stuff, and I'm just here to say it isn't. It isn't. I mean, even me, like, I barely knew social media till a couple of years ago, and I'm learning, and it's great. Like, there's just so, and each year it gets better, and I know more. I think all these myths of you can't pick up things, or you can't, you can't get the body. I mean, you can do anything you want.
I
Honestly, you can
know.
do anything you
I
want.
know. I'm so glad there's people like you out there speaking about this. I'm late 30s, so I'm, still heading that way. But there's people that get to my age as well and think, oh well, I'm just, feeling very stuck. Women in their 50s feeling very stuck, running out of time. They don't feel young anymore. And like you say, you can be anything, you can do anything you want. So I'm really glad that there's people of all ages speaking out about this stuff and being a beam of light, I suppose, for their peers. So, how did you end up working with other women?
Well,
Just generally?
I feel like empty nesters, and that is because that's a big change, big transition
Yeah.
period for a lot of women, right? So I think that is hard because, and I'm going to say again, like, the motherhood is something we embrace, right? And which we should. So we
Mm.
throw ourselves in there, and then we come to this point when our children are starting to get older. So at this point, you either are like clinging on and want them to come home all the time, and and then, which is kind of stopping their growth, right? So, or you can say, okay, you go do your thing, I'm going to go do mine. So, which I think is beautiful for you, because there's so much going here, right? So that's one thing. I find a lot of people in my stage where they're just like, oh my gosh, I want my child to come home. Why don't they come home and I'll do their laundry? And they're trying to find random things for them to do, which is beautiful. I'm not saying, great. But on the other hand, I know when as kids get older, they're busy. They want to know mom's doing great. Mom's got her. They want to hear your stories. They want to what you're up to. And I think it's such a
Mhm.
beautiful time for you to make it about you because you can, right? So that's kind of how because I'm passionate about that because I just feel like especially with age, right? We're told you're not valued as much, right? And it's a bunch of crap. I don't agree with any of it. And I do love even on like on social media. There's so many people being like, "Oh, you can be 50 and you can look like this, and it's not. You don't have to give up. You can still wear the clothes you want to wear." I'm actually starting a style channel as well, which I just think, you know what, wear what you want to wear. If it feels good, looks good, and how you represent yourself makes a difference in how you feel. So why not give it your all and do your best and be happy, right? So that's kind of where I am. I'm just trying to break all these little myths that people, get told.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, yeah, and breaking down all the societal expectations of what you're supposed to be, as opposed to listening. I always talk about listening to what's in here rather than feeling like you live your life or, trying to achieve, whether it's in work or just life goals, but they're not your life goals. It's you're living to please other people. Yeah, so I'm glad more and more we see the people speaking out about their own journeys, which will definitely have a knock-on effect on other people.
no,
So it's interesting that you say it's empty nesters. I've never really heard that term. Um, I've heard the empty nest, but yeah, the fact that that is something that women go through when their children leave home. So where would you say you are now in life?
excited. Honestly, I feel full of possibilities. I don't feel limited by anything. Um, so I honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I'm open. Like, I think for the first
Mhm.
time, I'm actually comfortable with the unknown. I always lived
Mhm.
a very controlled life, take this step and then this one. And and that's what society tells you, right? You just go to school, you get
Yep.
married, you have kids, you get the house, I did all that. So I'm like, yep, did all that. And then what? Right? So I think so now I'm like, I'm living my life on my terms. I'm creating the life that I want.
Mm-hmm.
And that could be one thing 6 months from now and then totally different a year from now because I don't know. I have nothing really tying me down anymore. So it's like the world is anything's possible. If my heart leads me to it, I'm open to it. And I think it's
Yeah.
just an exciting time.
Yeah, that is, and it's letting go of control and just letting things unfold as well. And you know that you can change the direction if ever you're not happy with, the way that life is unfolding. Did
Absolutely.
you did you have to work? You said obviously you mentioned there about, you believe that there's endless possibilities. So is that something you had to work on, self-belief, self-worth? Because you said you worked with a life coach as well.
I did. I think, honestly, my journey with self life coach was mostly because I needed someone to pull the truth out of me, if that makes sense. Because I was terrified to admit certain things to myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very difficult process to be in your late 40s, early 50s and saying, I have no idea who I am. I don't know what I want. Am I even allowed to say I want more? Um, or I'm not, I have all this and I'm supposed to be happy, but I'm not happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all those things that it really helped me just to have another person that could say, it's okay. You're allowed to feel this way. Because I never had anybody like that in my life.
Yeah.
So I think for me that was really, really vital. And I think
Yeah.
sometimes with a life coach, you know the answers. Everybody knows the answers, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Mm-hmm.
about just finding that person that can
Yeah.
give you
That's
that
what I
space.
say. Yeah, it's finding sometimes you need someone else to help pull the magic out of you is what I say.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely, absolutely. And
yeah,
when
and
you're ready, that one comment, one sentence will catapult you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's about, that's why I think it is people, like, you can't force anyone to get the help, but once they're ready for the help,
Mm-hmm.
everything aligns, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's about the support and encouragement as well. I don't know about you, but I did it alone for a long time. My personal development journey, my growth journey, I didn't speak to anyone about it. I was doing it all on my own. I would
Hmm.
never, we never stop growing, we never stop evolving. And I feel like now I will talk to someone, I will find someone to blurt out whatever I need to talk about because it's no good in here. I've kind of learned that over the years that it's no good in here, and there's so much support and encouragement out there as well. But you're never going to find that if you're not talking about your story.
Absolutely. But I think, you know what it is? For me, it was like I didn't talk to people because I didn't want to be a burden to people.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't something that I didn't share my story with people because I thought it was too much.
Mm-hmm.
So I just feel like a lot of times you have to think you're worth it. And once you start doing that a little bit, then you're like, oh my God, that made such a big difference. So you have to try it. If there's even a little part of you that thinks, um, you could benefit from some of that, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's one call, one,
Mm-hmm.
session, it can be life changing. But you're absolutely right. There's so much support. Once you start looking for it,
Yeah.
there's so much out there. So you don't need to be doing it alone.
Yeah, and like we've found as well, like-minded women, who are on a similar journey, regardless of age, regardless of occupation, we're all on this growth journey, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical, we're all on, we're all on this journey, and people like myself and you and others, we find each other when you start talking and start sharing your story.
Absolutely. And it's beautiful because yeah, you're, as you said, I did it alone for a long time. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just so heartwarming and comforting because we need a community. We need a community to get so much with other people. So yes, I'm so thankful. Thank you for, connecting for sure. Yes, it's been a great journey, and I continue to look forward to the amazing things that are still to come.
Yeah. And what would you say to someone who maybe where you were, say, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, who maybe isn't living the life true to themselves, who is trying to please others? If you get any words that might help them if they're at that point just now,
I
that
think
might help.
well, I think no, like, you're important. You matter.
Mm-hmm.
You matter just as much as the people that you love matter. So I'm like, look for the resources. There's support. Look for help. You deserve it. I think that was probably. I just thought, oh, I'm strong. I can take it. You can be strong. That's fine. You can be strong, but you can still have a soft place to fall. You can still have people that care about you. You don't have to do it all alone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the biggest thing is you're not too much.
Mm-hmm.
You deserve the goodness. Let it in.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I don't think we realise that the people around us just want the best for us too. So if we, for like we just said about talking, about actually being open and honest about what you want and how you feel, you might be surprised by their response and how much, they might support you and encourage you in your own dreams.
Absolutely. I think we don't take the chance of saying, or you say it to the wrong person and then they didn't value it, so you think it doesn't matter. So
Mm-hmm.
no, keep trying. You just have to keep remembering you're important. You matter. Your needs matter. Try
Mm-hmm.
again. Do it in a different way, right? Because there's people. Absolutely, there's people.
Mm-hmm.
I think sometimes there's people close to us that even the ones that you think don't care, it's just because they don't know how sometimes. And I think because if you don't think you're worthy, sometimes you're not gonna, you might snap at them at the wrong time when you're frustrated rather than communicating clearly and saying, hey, it would really help me out if you would do this, and this, right? Um, but that takes time and getting to know yourself. But we all need to take that time and figure out what you actually want. Because a lot of times we'll do one thing and mean to do another, right? So it's just take your time, communicate. You're worthy.
Yes, communication is key. That's one of the big things I've learned in my own journey, communication. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about you, Sunny, for the future? So obviously you're working now, you've got your coaching business. Is that sort of taking off? Are you in the early stages of that? Are you taking on clients?
I am taking on clients, but I'm trying to, I do one-on-ones, and I would
Mm-hmm.
like to start doing retreats. That's something I always thought was interesting. I love just getting a bunch of women together. I feel like they learn so much from each other, and just having that community is so important, and not feeling alone. So that's kind of my next step. And I'm starting a podcast as well. And so I've got a bunch of things that I really want to um, get going. So in the next year, that's my plan. Um,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like I second guess a lot, just like everybody else, right? And you always want everything to be perfect. But
Mm-hmm.
you know what? It's like that's how you learn is by starting out, and things get
Yes,
better every time, right? So it's just you got to
yes,
start somewhere. So that's kind of where I'm
yeah.
right now.
That's great advice right there is just start. Just nobody really knows what they're doing when they start. You learn as you go along. Yeah, that's amazing then. That's an exciting year coming up for you.
Yes, yes, it should be. I am, and I don't have. I'm not scared of failure. I'm not scared of anything right now. I'm just at
Yeah,
just really at a stage of surrender. I'm gonna
yeah,
see what comes and just flowing.
yeah. And I don't think there's any such thing as failure. It's lessons. I think there's a lesson
No,
for you.
absolutely. That's what I mean. Like it's not. I'm
Yeah,
not. Like, I don't stress myself out too much. The younger me would have. I would have been very worried about other people's judgment. Well, how is it going to go? And I'm at the stage now. It's like, oh well, it's exactly as you said. It was a lesson, and I want to be at 80 and 90 and say, oh, I tried that. Then,
yeah,
oh, I sit there and worried about it wouldn't be as perfect as I'd like, and what'll everybody else think. And so I don't.
mhm,
I'm excited about just having those stories to tell at 85, 90 years old. So we'll see.
exactly. It's exciting. Well, thanks for sharing your journey with us, and I can't wait as well to see next year how that unfolds for you. And I will leave details on how people can contact you in the description so they can come and watch your journey and the launch of your podcast next year as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're
That
welcome.
was really good. Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Spirit, Mind and Soul podcast. It was really great to hear Sunny's story in more depth, and I hope that it helped you in some way as well. I will leave details on how to contact Sunny below, and I do recommend going and checking out her Instagram account as well. Remember to hit that like button if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe if you haven't already, and to find out more about the work that I do, you can visit iamkarenleigh.com.